So if you don't know the difference between user interface and user experience, so you have a stair and look how Mate is using. So yeah, that's the difference between user interface and user experience. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about effective test automation using pattern object model. If you Google the term, you're not going to find almost anything about that term because somehow I made it up. Who am I? I'm Gjore Zaharchev, Quality Assurance Line Manager at Seavus Group. Recently we were acquired by Arikoma Group, so I think we have an office here in Bratislava. Most probably the company is named Cleverlance, something like that. I'm software testing consultant. I work on software testing project like everyone else in the company, but the problem is that I work on all the projects that we have in the company, and that is more than 100 at the time. 14 plus years of hands-on experience. In December it will be 15. I'm also teaching software testing. I have an academy in Skopje. I started 2017 to be more precise, and I started in Serbia, not in Macedonia, but on the niche university in Serbia. It's 100 kilometers from the capital. And I'm also conference and testing meetup speaker. So yeah, this year is my second real conference and fourth if we include the virtual events. And I would like to talk a lot about Agile testing and test automation. Yeah, definitely, that's me. Okay, the more important part today is about the agenda, what we're going to talk about today. What are the challenges? There are a lot of challenges, and usually challenges are not about technologies. Challenges are about people. This is something we don't realize. I will tell you some real stories. We are going to get familiar with some known design patterns and what I call pattern object model. Maybe there is a different name, so if there is such name, just let me know. And are there any similar solutions, and what are the recommendations for next actions? So what are actual challenges? Everyone thinks that we are going to introduce automation and manual testing will be gone. This is not going to happen definitely. The manual testing will be never replaced. Why? First of all, our automated tests are not smart at all. So this is the problem. Not the problem, but this is the reality. What are the people challenges? People don't know programming. So if you hire software testers, they know nothing about programming. Even they learned in school, they practice at programming. When they will start working as testing engineers, they don't know anything about programming. They don't even know what is a class, what is an object, what is a variable, and so on and so on. So this is a real problem. This is not only a problem, for example, in Macedonia, Serbia. We have offices in 16 countries. I'm interviewing people in 16 countries, even in countries that we don't have offices like Ukraine, because we are hiring external people from there. People don't know programming in these 16 countries. Trust me. People don't have time to learn programming. Yeah, someone is working 8 hours per day, has family, it's irrelevant, does it have or not. People don't have time to learn programming. Maybe the problem is they don't want to learn programming. People don't have technical skills. Under technical skills, I'm talking about they don't know anything about SQL, let's say, they don't know anything about programming languages or object-oriented programming or object-oriented model, and so on and so on. And the problem is that clients are not allowing us to learn. So they expect we to know. When they're hiring us, they expect that we should know programming or test automation, how to call it. Clients do not allow less experienced people to work on automation. This is another problem. So they want really, really high seniors, people that have been in this area for 15 years. It's impossible. 15 years ago, there was some sort of automation, but that was, how to say, primitive automation. So how many started automation then? Then we have the tools challenges. Human readable tests. We need to write tests that everyone can understand. Easy knowledge transfer. So this is the biggest challenge. If I'm leaving the company, I should give a very easy knowledge transfer. It's not only the leaving the company. We usually switch people from project to project because of some need. Someone is more experienced, we are introducing someone less experienced. People who will join need to understand what we are doing. And the problem occurs now. They don't understand the code that was written, starting from scratch. Yep, this is a real problem. People are usually starting from scratch. I'm dealing with such problems on a daily basis. Why starting from scratch? The code should be easily troubleshooted. I will give some examples, but don't take them for granted because they're just examples and they don't work in reality like that. So I just wanted to be more technology agnostic, so don't use some loggers and so on. I just used some try-catch. Boost test reliability. So our tests should be reliable. Why? Because we are writing and adding an extra tests and adding more tests. We don't have time to execute all of them. In a few weeks, we don't know how many of them are reliable. We are running them, they're all failing. We mark the build, or we are saying these are irrelevant tests, and it's very complicated. Accelerate test execution. So how to accelerate test execution? This is maybe the $1 million question, and maybe there is no answer on that. Extend the framework to fit your needs. So the framework that you're writing, it should fit almost to all of the needs. The problem is that we are writing frameworks on all of the projects, we are writing different frameworks, and we are writing the same things again and again. This framework that I'm presenting is more about Selenium WebDriver. So there are two already known design patterns that are mostly used, the page object model and the page factory. So we know the page object model. So code reuse, maintainability, readability, and so on and so on. Improved code, faster locators, just simple clicks, shorter code if we add the annotations. And there are a lot of problems, for example, with page factory, that only the implicit weight is supported, so we need to add a lot of thread slips. If we take a single click of a button, we can write it in more than 10 different ways. This is the simplest way how we are writing the click of a button, a page object for clicking of a button. Someone will say, yeah, usually people are doing this because copy-paste from Stack Overflow, and then defining a web element, then doing the action of the web element. Remember especially this example. I will show you how to reuse it millions of times. Then someone will say, no, that is not a good practice. You need to, instead of local objects or variables, you need to use class variables. So take everything and the top. So if you're listening developers, they will say, don't do like this, put private, because it's going to be used in this class only. So I didn't put private in the example, but yeah. Then someone else will write with the implicit weight. Yeah, because it will require a lot of thread slips. You need to do it with the implicit ways. So we will wait for a specific condition. Then, yeah. Again, we are facing a new approach, case number 4. And it's only a click of a button, so we have 4 cases so far. People are writing in the same framework. If you have multiple testers that are writing automated tests, they're writing the code on 10 different ways. Trust me, we put a single person to work on a test automation, and he used all of these approaches. Why? Because simply copy-pasting code from Stack Overflow. And when you're copying code from Stack Overflow, scroll a little bit down, because the question is the problem, not the answer. So this is the common problem that we're facing. Oops. Yeah, another problem, yeah, again, introducing an extra objects and introducing an extra complication when using the clicking of a button. And again, case number 6, again, different approach, different extending of everything. So this is maybe the top case when someone is handling the exceptions. Exceptions are already handled, so no need to do that. Then doing some single test. What is the point behind of the pattern object model? And the question is, do we need to reinvent, oops, sorry, this is not, do we need to reinvent the wheel? Yeah, that's the question. What do you think? Do we need to reinvent the wheel? Of course we need to reinvent the wheel. If we never reinvented the wheel, we will never reach to Mars. So how do we expect with these wheels to reach to Mars? And to go on Mars, actually, not to reach to Mars, but go on Mars, to drive through Mars. So this is the strongest wheel in the world. It was last year, I don't know this year, maybe it's something stronger than this. So we need to define a group of things that we are doing on a daily basis. So what we are doing actually? The question now is, do we now need page object model? Because if we can group the things in this initialization of driver, yeah, we need to do it only once for all the projects in the company, for all the projects in all companies that we work. Buttons and links. What we can do on buttons and links? Click. There is nothing to do on these buttons and links. Input fields. We can type text, we can clear text. What else we can do on input fields? Alerts. Accept alert, dismiss alert. Is there something else? Type username and password, for example. Credentials. What we can do with combo boxes. Select one thing, select multiple things. Yeah. These are the things that we can do. There is nothing more than that. Text. If we have a label, we can retrieve that label, the text, so we can validate that text. Nothing more than that. Then if we can put property files, Excel files, system variables, for example, for different environments, this is to work with different environments and so on and so on. So I made up something like this. Why did I make it like something like this? Because I had problems with the simplest way in the world. People were not understanding, for example, I have something like, it's only a button, but someone asked me, the click of a button and click of the link is not the same thing. How to click on the link? No, it's the same thing. It's a simple click. So I made a new class that is called link. Actually, I didn't make a class. I made an object from the class button that is called link. The object is called link. How we can solve 90% of all cases in Selenium WebDriver? By these two methods. Ignore the try-catch. So I put them only for someone if it's losing, if someone is using some custom logging like log4j and so on and so on. So I put a try-catch instead of writing the code for. So if we create two methods, one for retrieving a single web element and one method for retrieving a list of web elements, we can play with all of the elements, clicks, send keys, and so on. What we need to do, we need to do two things. First thing, we need to send the locator. So we need to send the locator, only that thing. So instead of having a lot of page objects, we can just store the locators. We can just make objects from the class by. That is simply. If we create them static, we can use them with the name of the class. No need to create objects of the classes. And simply, when we call these methods, if you remember on the second slide, if I call this method and I put the action click, I put the action send keys, I can reuse these two methods millions of times on all of the projects that I have without writing any page objects. I'm just calling them, providing the locator, and just reusing them millions and millions of times. A simple test that I have wrapped them in I have these two methods and I'm calling in my classes button and my class input. So I'm putting additional methods because people don't know programming, and I realized then they don't understand what these methods mean. Maybe my naming convention is not very good. That's why I made a new naming convention that is called button. So they know what button do, because it's normal. We do all manual testing, so we know what we can do on the button. We can click. So in my class button, I have a method that is called click. My method is calling this method, sending the locator again, and using there. And these are the tests that we can write. For example, we have a class named navigate to, and I'm reading from a properties file. I'm sending the property value. Browser maximize, what we can do with the browsers. Maximize, minimize, set some size, get some size. These are 5 methods or 6 methods in total. Then with the input type, we can just, as I said, clear, type, or clear. So nothing more than that. Button.click, and then we can assert and extract some value. I'm only using, even I have this fancy naming convention, I'm only using these 2 methods, nothing more. I'm just calling them in my additional methods because of the good naming convention. I started like this to write, and I realized people don't understand what I'm doing. So yeah, put something that they understand. Are there any similar solutions? Of course, there are millions of different solutions, and someone else is doing on the same way. The similar approach have Catalan Studio, for example, if we take them. Maybe the problematic thing that they have is they have a full list of all the actions, and you need to scroll down. Even I used for several years, I was spending minutes and minutes to scroll down and find the appropriate action. That's why I put it in separate classes. Like button, what are the possible actions? When you type button in your code in C# or Java or any integration development environment, you will get the results of possible methods. So you're getting only 2 results for input, for example, type or clear. Why I'm suggesting creating such similar framework that you can use, why not using maybe commercial tools and so on and so on. Even right now, I mentioned Catalan or different tools. 2013 or 14 it was, we were using a mobile testing tool called MonkeyTalk. And suddenly we had, at some point we had, I don't know, 100 and 150 tests. The number was not very big. But suddenly when we wanted to upgrade the new version, we were unable to find the tool on the internet. We were unable to find anything about the tool. So this is my suggestion, why writing this from scratch and not reusing from someone else. Yeah, I put it on GitHub, you can fork it and reuse it, but the problem is that at some point that may disappear. It's not going to be maintained anymore. Selenium WebDriver will change something in the logic, like they did some changes in from version 2 to version 3, and now they most probably do something in version 4. I haven't checked. So that's why if you're maintaining, if you fix on one place, all of your projects that are using this approach will work again. They're not going to have any problems. And that's all from my presentation. I tried to be as short as possible. If you want to see the code, how I have created it, you can find it on GitHub, and you can contact me at any time. Thank you.
So thank you, Gjore. We have 2 questions on Slido, actually. So I will read the first one. What about moving from automation to autonomous? Once this comes, no programming required.
Yeah, there are tools that do not, or codeless tools that do not require programming, maybe is referring to that, but definitely these are commercial tools, and writing such framework or such tool in your company will be too expensive. Why not if you can use it and if the price is good, but I don't know. I'm preferring more this way because you can maintain your own code and you're not relying on someone else and price increases.
Okay, and one more question. would you expand your functions with custom assertion functions to make code easier to read for others?
Expanding the assertions is maybe the worst idea I have ever seen. Why? Because there are a lot of frameworks for assertion. I give an example with TestNG assertions, but actually I don't use TestNG's assertion model. I use Assertion, which gives very good assertions. So creating a wrapper on top of that will not solve your problem. So the idea is to reduce the layers which you will maintain, not increase them. So if you increase the layers that you're maintaining them, you're just working something worse, not something better.
Okay, so there are no more questions on Slido. Are there any questions here in auditorium? Yes, Ron?
Doesn't that reduce the performance of the automation framework? Because you're basically retrieving everything first. You're waiting until the elements are visible.
Okay, actually, this will not slow down your framework, and this is very useful thing. Why it's very useful thing? Because sometimes we cannot write a good XPath to reach to some element. For example, when we have tables, we have the same ID for every record. When we have the same ID for every record, how to reach to record number 6, for example, we will write so complicated XPath that will be unusable. Maybe something tomorrow will change, the row will be not there anymore, the data will change. That's why someone introduced lists in Selenium WebDriver. So this is a list. This exists in Selenium WebDriver. I'm just creating my custom list so I can provide which element. That's why I'm retrieving it. So we will not slow down at all because it's built-in function in Selenium WebDriver and it's optimized. I'm just wrapping it.
Okay, one more question.
So thanks. One more question, if I may. So earlier on, you also extracted the locators using BY. And you said that's quite different to page object model. But what is the actual difference? Because you somehow need to define all the locators for one specific page in one place. So how do you organize your test suite then?
That's why I call it a pattern object model. I extracted 2 patterns and locators. So when we have the page object model, people usually not extracting on top all the locators, but actually they are writing down a majority, actually, not all of them. They're writing down like this. So we're thinking on a page object, this entire section, not only the locator. So actually, this is not a difference, but very similar. And you can put everything, because you're not reaching the number of more than 2,000 lines of code, so you can put everything in a file. You can put all the locators not only in a file, in a separate class, and so on and so on. You don't need a separate class for each page. You can just put some comment there that new locators are starting for this page, so you can use that one class only.
Okay, thank you, Gjore. I will not jump there, so I will stay here. We will find it later. It's okay. It's okay. So one more applause for Gjore.